Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers. I'm looking at this book today. It's called Turnaround Management. It's got a subtitle, Unlocking and Preserving Value in Distressed Businesses. And it's been written by a man called Alan Tilley. More about Alan in a minute. You can see the actual front of the book there. It's a hardcover book, sort of a vine-coloured front. There's the back. It's only a small book. There's some detail about Globe Law and Business, who published this, at the back of the book, explaining what the company does. There's some ads about previous actual publications. Then you've got actually an index, which is quite useful. They don't produce much by way of invoices. Indexes in these particular books, but this one does have an index, and I think it's very, very useful. Then you've got some details about Alan himself, who is chairman of BM&T European Restructuring Solutions, and he has expertise in operational turnaround and cross-border restructuring. So that's where he's coming from. The book runs to 200 odd pages. You can see the back of the book there. Obviously that's an appendix at the back, which is quite a substantial one. You can see that, guidelines and policy recommendations. That starts at page 205. Then the basic body copy, if you like, of the book. 16 chapters. The last one is the conclusions. You've got paragraph numbering. No sort of footnotes as such in the book. If we go to the front of it, you can see the front page. Standard style for Globe with the heading. Then you've got the information about the book, and then you've got the table of contents, and it runs through, as I say, that's actually the main set of contents for the 16 chapters. Then you've got the appendix at the back. Then you start a forward to the first edition, because this is actually a new edition. It doesn't actually say that on the front, but it's the forward to the first edition. And then that was in October 2018. Then a preface from Alan setting out what he's doing. He said the first edition was published in 2018. I traced the evolution of insolvency, corporate restructuring and turnaround of distressed businesses, and since that time there have been some changes, and in fact do read that in detail so you've got some idea of what it's about. Then you've got the introduction, and there is actually a little footnote there, but there's very little by way of footnotes. The introduction there, which sets things out, and he runs it through. It's quite a nice book to read because it flows through quite nicely. You can see the various emboldened headings, subheadings and so on, and that's how the book runs. There are tables. You can see some tables of information there. That's sort of business plans, and in fact this is about actually the figures concerning what's happening within this particular area. And what he talks about is the Clark plan and the Clark case, which is actually about how you restructure and turn around a business. Quite important at any time, irrespective of whether you've got any form of inflation or a serious downturn in business. So what do we say about the book? Well, Elizabeth was the lead writer on this particular review, and she's given it this title, A Second Chance for Entrepreneurs Facing Insolvency. Check out this new in-depth analysis of turnaround management. And I say that because effectively, although it doesn't say it's a second edition, which it effectively really is, the first edition did come out basically about 5-6 years ago, so it's obviously in need of some form of updating. But this is what we say: if you're a lawyer with a corporate client or clients facing financial distress and ultimately insolvency, you'll need this book. It's published recently by Globe Law and Business. Do have a look at their website, because that gives you all the up-to-date books that they produce. They offer us, I think, a very good service as lawyers about the processes and the administration and the nitty-gritty, if you like, of legal and business issues. And I'm very grateful to them for the work they do for us, because they make our lives a lot easier. It's useful to note the descriptive subtitle. I've already mentioned it, but I'll repeat it: Unlocking and Preserving Value in Distressed businesses. This says it all, we say, because its processes are linked to a complex area of law, and there's a lot more to be said, especially when multi-jurisdictional complications emerge. So you can see that there's a general overview, but there's a lot of detail that is quite useful, and the book covers a lot of that. With lengthy and detailed experience in what is a specialised area of consultancy, the author is Alan Tilley, got his own business, and he provides a broad range of authoritative advice aimed specifically at those who are confronted with the undeniably challenging task of advising and managing companies teetering on the sharp edge of insolvency, with its intimidating spectrum of possible consequences. And they are very substantial. We have, as I speak, we're seeing an increase at the moment, a spike in the number of corporate insolvencies. So there are changes that happen, but in business, it's part of what happens for some businesses, and therefore this book will be very helpful for those who want to turn around a particular corporate entity, if you like. The book and the wealth of advice therein is aimed principally at those who find themselves in the role of turnaround manager. Such a role, as Tilley explains, usually involves operating in an executive rather than a consultative role, and as such exposes the professional to the risks of personal liability, so you've been warned. However, no need to despair, because as the author adds, operating through a limited liability entity with a properly constructed engagement contract can reduce the risks, and that of course is the beauty of the limited liability concept. Proper professional performance, therefore, is the ultimate guarantee of risk avoidance. Anyone then in the legal profession or accountancy and or financial services with management and processes might well wonder how this increasingly obvious need for turnaround management got started in the first place, and whether or not it's providing itself to be effective. The answer to that, of course, is yes, because Tilley's got a positive answer in that turnaround management is becoming, quote, increasingly recognised as an important part of business, absolutely right, and that the understanding of its obvious benefits is growing. He's confident that the concept has more than likely evolved as a result of the influence of what we know as Chapter 11 of the United States Bankruptcy Code of 1970, which you do hear about from time to time, even on this side of the pond. Chapter 11, basically proceedings, which of course is based on the concept of giving entrepreneurs a second chance, which obviously is something a lot of them would like to have. It's primarily by creating the concept, so-called, of the debtor in possession, or the DIP, usually by means of a restructuring plan, while the company is protected from creditors. And you can see the benefits of that, because at the end of the day you don't want to just end everything, because if you do, you're losing quite a lot of painstakingly built up links and basically the whole business of business itself. You don't want to destroy all of it if you can save part of it. So the point is that better results for shareholders certainly loom large, and this becomes then a distinct possibility with a dip. Now, it's a complex subject, is turnaround management, but it's well explained in the book, we think. There's admirable clarity throughout, covering as it does the risks involved as well as the potential rewards. Obviously we've got an expert talking about it, and it's useful to get that expertise. It's based on the author's 40 years plus experience in the field, with consultancy advice and guidance contained in what is a compact volume in high value work indeed. And I think it's also important to note the guidance in the appendix, which contains over 20 pages of useful guidelines and policy recommendations. So with its international orientation, which I think is a plus, as well as its straightforward advice, this book from Globe, we think, should be considered as an essential purchase for business and law professionals worldwide, in what is now known as corporate governance. And the date of publication is cited at the late part of 2023. Let's just have one last look at it. There's the book again. There. You can see the details at the bottom. The spine, and then you can't really make out much on the back. But opening it up in the middle, let's find something here. What we've got. Turnaround and non-performing loans. Again, goes right to the heart of some of the problems. You can see the way that the copy is written. You've got not too much by way of subtitles, but you've got quite useful paragraphing. And then you've got various tables which help. And in fact, it runs through on that basis. As I say, you've got quite a lot of information. For instance, Chapter 8, Management, Credibility and Stakeholder Management. Again, you can see these are very important issues for anybody involved, not just in the legal aspects, but also the business aspects. Because actually, people obviously forget this. As a solicitor or barrister, you're a business. So it's not just a question of being a lawyer. You're a business lawyer, if you like. And therefore, these books from Globe are brilliant. So a big thank you to Sean and all the people at Globe for producing this excellent book for us. We thank you. Bye-bye.